Good morning. The news yesterday of the death of 22-year-old young man Otto Warmbier must have come as a shock to many. The death of anybody, especially of a young man just starting his life, is always a matter of regret. And the fault was that he was in a wrong place at a wrong time. The US government has always issued advisories that the people should not visit North Korea. And yet people go there. And then all that war cries start saying that somebody has lost his life, without thinking that who is responsible for all that. Well, the question to be decided is, are such deaths avoidable? Should such deaths happen? There are many nuances of such deaths. And when we are talking of Otto, at the same time our minds are visited by the thoughts about Kulbhushan Yadav, whose fate is hanging in balance. People have always, since times immemorial, been cautioned about various travel. You travel to a country like Nigeria or Rwanda, and you can be sure that you'll be kidnapped. You travel to a country like North Korea, and if you are politically oriented, you can be sure that you're going to suffer. You travel to a country like Pakistan or Indonesia, and happen to be a person belonging to minority, and then you become vocal about criticizing some aspect of their religion, you can be sure to be in hot trouble. And same happened with Otto Warmbier. Not that I condone his death, but the fact is, why should such precipitous action be taken, which results in uncalled for end to life? He was traveling, he was not trespassing, he had got the visa. His only fault was, according to the North Korean government, that he tried to steal some propaganda material. Right or wrong? The point is, once you visit a host country, you are supposed to abide by the rules of that country. If I visit Pakistan, I have no right to criticize Islam because that's an Islamic republic. It's as simple as that. Nobody invited me there, as nobody invited Otto Warmbier. This was of his own volition he went there, and once he went there, he was supposed to abide by the rules prevalent in that country. About Kulbhushan Yadav, the story is different. Pakistan says he was a spy. And practically India says that he was kidnapped from Iran. But kidnapping of spies, kidnapping of the people thought to be criminals, has been an time-old tradition in diplomacy. I suppose you remember, Israel had kidnapped each man from Argentina and hanged him for his crimes against the Jews. And at that time there was no protest. But now, with the explosion of information, we are easily stirred by the politicians and the media howling for blood. As I said in the beginning, I do not condone the death of a young man. I feel bad. But to blame only the government of North Korea is wrong. That will only ratchet up the tempers which are pretty high at present. We have got to ensure that the further fault was of Otto, who disregarded the travel advisory, went to North Korea. Okay. Youth is an age of being adventurous, so he embarked on this adventure. Secondly, there is no proven evidence that the North Korean government had an animus against him. He may not have stolen, but he must have said or done something to enable or excite the secret services of that country to pay attention to what he was doing and arrest him. What followed thereafter was absolutely unacceptable. That's torture. There is a civilized way of dealing with him, as there is a civilized way of dealing with the spies. At one time, spies used to be hanged. They were enemies of the nation and they were hanged. But now the system is that when the spies are there, you exchange them. At some stage, you imprison them. But at one stage, you exchange them with your spies who have been caught. This civilized behavior is supposed to be the norm today. Not torture, not killing of the spies. And I'm assuming that Kulbhushan Yadav was a spy. I'm accepting Pakistan's argument. I don't know whether he was or he was not. India says he was not. Pakistan says he was. There's no mechanism to identify the truth and to find out the real story. But assuming even if the Pakistan is right, it would be incumbent on Pakistan to exchange him, or to exchange him at a later stage after punishing him. Imprison him. Nobody can deny that. India had hanged Kasab, if we remember. But let's not forget, Kasab was proved to be guilty of killing hundreds of people. And he was given a trial in an open court. He went through the whole gambit of the due process of law, a lower court, a sessions court, a high court, and the Supreme Court. At 4 stages, he was given an opportunity to defend himself. So there is no comparison of the two. Kulbhushan Yadav, had he been tried in a civil court, in an open court, given access to the consular services, and then punished, might not have raised the sort of dust that the decision has done so now. Still, it is within the legal right of Pakistan to hang him. I don't deny that. As it was the legal right of North Korea to imprison Otto. But legal rights are always not human rights. Legal rights are not always practical. Legal rights often give rise to the situations which can have dangerous consequences if not handled in time. As I said in the beginning, travel cannot be trespassing. You have a right to travel, provided A, the conditions are normal, B, you adhere to the norms of the society where you are going. Let's take it up as an example in your household. Somebody comes to visit you. You treat him as a guest. Even if he's a stranger, sometimes you say, okay, come along. But you don't want him to stay there for a longer time. And suppose you take pity on that guy and let him stay for the night. And he starts misbehaving or doing something which goes against your thought. Would you not kick him out? Or hand him over to police for criminal trespassing? The same happened in Otto's case. I know. People are going to get jittery and agitated. But But why can't we be honest for once and say, yes, we regret the death of Otto, but he was guilty as well. Guilty of going to that country in the first instance, and secondly, of doing something that made those people suspicious of him. If I look at the tourist data of North Korea, many people visit that. I have gone there. Many people have gone there. How is it that there have been about 18 cases in which they have arrested the people? We remember there was a preacher who was arrested. He was trying to convert people to Christianity. Converting people to Christianity is a sin or a crime in North Korea, as it is in Pakistan, as it is in Indonesia, as it is in Saudi Arabia, as it is in Qatar, as it is in Yemen. So basically he had broken the law. And if he was in prison, there was nothing wrong with that. But he was released. Otto, according to them, committed a theft. The only objection can be that he was tortured. But isn't torture a way of life in that part of the world? And when you embark on a journey to that kingdom of darkness, should you not be prepared for that? Torture is something expected in the police lockups and in jails in India, in Pakistan, in Sri Lanka, in Burma, in Bangladesh, in Thailand, and Indonesia, in African countries, and in North Korea. It is a sign of their behavior. So, it was to be expected. Simply because that resulted in his going into a coma. Might be regrettable, but we cannot hold them solely responsible for this tragedy. My point is that at present we have got to take up the situation and look at it from different angles. Care should be taken that the people don't visit these countries. And if they're spies, there's a deniability, and they should be prepared for that. It's a hazard profession, and they should be prepared for the hazard of being punished. Even that. Yes, even that. I have been intimately connected, and I have seen people suffering when they were caught by the unwilling hosts. You know, when you go as a spy, the country where you have gone is an unwilling host. So you suffer. Basically, you have committed a crime by going in that country with an ulterior purpose of getting information. It's like a thief going to a household. So be prepared for the offense. Secondly, when you go as a traveler, it's incumbent on the government of USA to stop giving visas for traveling to North Korea, either directly or indirectly. Merely issuing the travel advisory is not sufficient. They should ban the travel to that country. And for the host country, it should be incumbent that the person should be punished, but punished in a human way. There should be some show of humanity, some sympathy. That after all, he's a human being. He has committed a crime. Okay, accept it. Punish him. Yes. But the punishment should be commensurate with the crime rather than excessive punishment. But still, I would not condone the fact that the recipient of that punishment is the originator of the whole trouble. Word is not something where you can go. It's not your oyster. You have got to to ensure that the cultural requirements in each country are different. The administrative law is different, the judicial system is different. And once you understand the difference, and then you are prepared for the consequences, only then should you take the hazardous journey. And if you cannot take it, you better stay put. The media has a role to play, first in discouraging people over there, and secondly, to stop behaving the way CNN is doing now, trying to put oil in the burning fire, adding up to the oil. That would help nobody, nor Otto, nor US, nor the US citizens, and not North Korea. It requires contemplation, it requires thought, and it requires rumination. Who is at fault? It is fear. The North Koreans were afraid that a spy has come. The Americans are afraid that they are criminals. And fear is a bloody black godmother of all the crimes and the sins that we witness all over. And fear is because we are not sure. So, if either we don't visit or we remain within the confines of law, whatever law may be in that part of the world, but you cannot go there, break their law, right or wrong is immaterial, and then not be prepared for the punishment. That is given. Thank you.